Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And welcome to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, of course, and the GSMC Podcast Network. Please check out our other shows if you haven't already, if you are interested in other sports than soccer. But let's jump into it. I am your host, Mark Souza, and with me, of course, as always, is Jeff Malinoff.
Hi, everybody.
We will be discussing U.S. soccer. For the first time, we will see new coach Greg Berhalter coaching his team in action. There's 2 friendlies upcoming. We'll also be talking about the women's national team. The U.S. women's national team just completed 2 friendlies, including a loss to France. We'll talk about that and talk about the importance of that as the U.S.
You usually don't hear women's national team and lose in the same sentence.
Yes, as we approach the 2019 Women's World Cup this year. So that's only a few months away, and we'll get into that. We'll also talk about some new signings in segment 2. We'll talk about some new signings, including Barcelona with a splash signing that went through today, and also a loan move by Chelsea that is completed.
He should be there by today. He should be there today.
Mario Balotelli also will be moving on in France. He'll be playing on a different team. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, later on in the show, we'll talk about the English Premier League and those teams. Tottenham suffers another crucial injury. Manchester United doesn't seem like they can lose. City and Liverpool, they stay on track. We'll talk about them in detail later on. Also, in terms of MLS expansion news, Sacramento has a new lead investor, which definitely changes the perspective on maybe they'll be the 28th and final MLS expansion team. We'll talk about what happened, who's involved, and why it's a big deal later on. So first, let's jump into it. The United States former Secretary of Defense, Tim Howard. He will be retiring at the end of this year professionally, so he's already retired from the national team, of course, but he will be retiring officially from the game overall as he'll play out the 2019 season with the Colorado Rapids, his club team in the MLS, but he will close this chapter in his life. And I think,
he is 39 years old.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely older. Undoubtedly, in my opinion, the greatest United States goalkeeper of all time. It is questionable. There are some other good players like Brad Friedel, Casey Keller come to mind in terms of players who have the
recognition.
They have the argument, but Tim Howard, I believe, he is, at least on the national team level, I would say he was the best U.S. goalkeeper. Not that he had the most success, but I think he was the best, including his, who could forget, his 2014 World Cup performance against Belgium, where they lost 2-1, but he had a record-setting night. 16 saves, which is a World Cup record. He made
doesn't really say something good for his defense, though.
He made amazing save after. I mean, he was playing Belgium. Belgium's
not his defense. The U.S. team's defenders is what I was meaning.
Well, yeah, I mean, Belgium's one of the greatest teams in the world. So,
yeah.
In that game, I mean, going against guys like Lukaku, Eden
Well, they
Hazard.
won the World Cup that year, right? 2014?
No, they did not.
Wait,
that was Germany.
That's right.
That was Germany. Belgium did not win the World Cup, but they were full of young, talented players. Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku. It was Belgium's golden generation. It went to extra time. Unfortunately, they lost 2-1, but not due to the lack of effort from Tim Howard. It's still regarded as maybe the best goalkeeping performance ever in a World Cup, like in history of the game. Not just U.S., but in the history of the game. I mean, he saved a record 16 shots. And for anybody who watched the game that night could tell you, like, he was the MVP of that game, regardless of the outcome. So not often you can say the losing goalkeeper is the best player on the field. Anyways, him retiring, obviously he's 39, so it's not new. We were robbed of the chance of seeing Tim Howard in the last World Cup as the U.S. didn't qualify.
They should have. They had a 93% chance last time I checked of making it, and they lost. And the teams they needed to lose to get in won. So it was just bad luck all around.
Yeah, they screwed up on their own.
Yeah.
They
should have won their game. They played a very weak team.
There's no excuses. They should have qualified for the World Cup.
Yeah.
They are the biggest country in the region by far. They lost to Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, it would have been their 8th straight World Cup appearance, so it kind of ends a streak there. But it was also the fact that just even if they did make it, how far would they have gone if they barely made it?
On that 2014 night in Brazil, where Tim Howard and the U.S. team lost to Belgium, Howard famously said, "This is a young group. We'll be back for more." Unfortunately, he never got a chance to get back for more. So
not his fault.
No, not his fault, but it is what it is. So
what are you gonna do?
We've seen a couple U.S. stars retire in the last few years. Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey. I gotta think that Tim Howard is on that level. He is definitely one of the best American players to ever play. Don't forget, he had a great career overseas. He started off at Manchester United, moved on to Everton, where he played many, many years. So not just successful on an international level, but a nice run for an American keeper going to England.
Just anyone in America playing in the Premier League is a big accomplishment, I feel like.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's just so rare. Like we just talked about Chelsea signing a big American name.
One thing that I really loved about his time at Everton was that he wore a camouflage uniform, like a U.S. military style goalkeeping uniform.
Does he get to design his own, or is it the team that does it?
Normally it's team nowadays, but it used to be a little bit different. It used to be more individual.
Yeah, it really just sometimes it throws you off when sometimes I've seen the times the goalie wears his own little custom jersey. I get that, and then the team they're playing has this like a similar color, and it just throws you off completely.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be.
Well, they changed it, but I've seen in the past that's happened. So
yeah, so. Moving on, though, the U.S. national team, the men's team, will be moving on. They have 2 games coming up. January 27th at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. They will face off against Panama. That's another rival, so a rival inside the Confederation, a team that they will be competing with to qualify for the next World Cup. And also, they will be playing on February the 2nd at Avaya Stadium in San Jose. They'll be facing Costa Rica. So Costa Rica is one of the better teams in the CONCACAF region. So this is a good test for the U.S. national team, the men's national team. It will be a tough test for the U.S. men's national team as this team that they've compiled, the 23 names that they've put together for these 2 games, are all MLS players because it's not recognized as a FIFA date. So none of the players in Europe can come play. None of the players playing professionally.
It's a good practice for those guys, though, because the guys in Europe, they're going to be ready regardless, and I think this is just a good testament for the younger players, the 2 players that don't really get a lot of international competition.
There are 2 sides of the coin when you look at this because the players that are in Europe miss a lot of time to play with the national team, so they miss a lot of time where they can train with their teammates, kind of build that cohesion, that team mentality. But at the same time, on the other side of the coin, this gives opportunities to MLS players who might be otherwise not given an opportunity. Maybe they're on the fringe. Maybe it gives them a chance to get a look. And if they impress the coach for a week or 2, maybe they get a call up down the road.
Like I said before, it's just a huge opportunity for the guy because we know the guys in Europe are going to be playing. That's
most of them.
That's almost like a given.
But that's not necessarily true. Just because you play in Europe doesn't mean you're going to be on the U.S. team. Like there are some players that are still very young.
I'll say a majority though.
Yeah, but it's not so cut and dry. I mean, like, when you look at the U.S. national team, like, their best 11 players, there's probably 5 or 6 from Europe and 5 or 6 from the MLS.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty much
But that leaves
split.
5 or 6 opportunities for MLS players.
Mm-hmm. But there's definitely players in Europe that either are not going to make the U.S. team when they go play in a competition, or they're a bench player. But yeah, it does give these players an opportunity. Yeah. So the players are Sean Johnson and Zach Steffen will be the 2 goalkeepers. So those will be the 2 men. Maybe one of them can be the next Tim Howard. I'm not so sure, but those will be the 2.
That's almost unfair.
But those will be the 2 guys that get an opportunity here.
Mm-hmm. I hate when someone goes like not you, but just in general, like someone goes the next so and so, because why can't they be the first that guy? And it's being the next Tim Howard. That's the most legendary. You said goalkeeper, most recognized.
They'll be the guy that is that's the standard.
That's just a lot to live up to.
But Tim Howard lived up to the standard of his predecessors too.
Very true.
So Casey Keller, at one time people said maybe Tim Howard would be the next Casey Keller. And he was, So
I just hope for the best of them. Is all I'm saying. I hate the fact they have just so much pressure right off the bat.
I think pressure will be on the coach, the new coach, Greg Berhalter. Now, he was not a very, favorable choice. Like there
was debate.
A lot of criticism came U.S. Soccer's way when they hired Greg Berhalter. So it will be on him to get results. I know these are friendlies, and I know they don't mean anything, but how the team plays, what style they play, how they look are more important than the result. But the result will matter, especially will matter to the naysayers, right? So the people who are against him, he won't be able to win them over this week, but he can lose them a little bit. Like it's going to be a long time before people change their mind on him, good or bad. But so I mentioned the 2 keepers. The defenders, Reggie Cannon, Nick Lima, Aaron Long, Daniel Levitz, Mark McKenzie, Keegan Rosenberry, Aaron Trusty, and Walker Zimmerman. Now, Jeff, only 3 of these players of the 8 defenders have had experience on the national team level before. 5 of them have 0 caps for the national team.
Well, I would say this is a positive and a negative. Negative, obviously, not enough experience, but positive in the matter like they can take advantage of this opportunity and get more. What's the word I'm looking at? More experience and maybe develop into some serious players. Like who knows?
Yeah.
Like there's always it's always nice to see guys getting their first opportunity because some guys really take that and run with it.
Yeah.
And it's just good to give them experience. And the fact is, like we're good. And U.S. men's national team is not highly touted as compared to the women's national team, so they could use some more firepower, some more experience to get them to World Cup again.
Yeah, so there's 10 midfielders taken. The midfielder group has a little bit more experience, led by Michael Bradley, who is a veteran. He has 142 games played with the national team.
That's plenty.
He has more than all the rest of the players combined, for sure. Paul Areola, 17, and then you got Corey Baird. You have Marky Delgado, Jonathan Lewis, Sebastian Yekit, Georgi Mihailovic, Christian Roldan, and Will Trapp. Only a couple of those players have never played on the national team level before.
If you're Michael Bradley, are you worried or are you concerned that there's not a lot of experience at hand with you?
I think if you're Michael Bradley, you're more concerned about being on the team in a year or two. You're getting older. He's definitely on the downswing of his career. I think this is important for him to prove that, because he's the captain. He's the captain, but he's also somebody who's looking to be replaced in the next year or two. We're talking about...
It's more of a scouting situation than anything else.
Let's look at this realistically, Jeff. The next World Cup is 2022.
I don't think he's going to be there.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, I don't know. I see this as more of one of his last games instead of...
So, do you see it as more like, I'm going to just see around me who I can hand that captain patch to, hand that captain armband to?
Yeah, well, I think that for Berhalter, he picks Bradley because he does want to have a little bit of leadership there, because this is a very young team.
Oh, they will follow him, yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then also you're giving him a chance to stick around, and it's also a PR move. Like, you want to, you don't want to... It's
the public does like Michael Bradley. Just
it's just like if you don't bring him in, then it's like, oh, he doesn't want Michael Bradley. Like, you know what I mean?
That would make
it's like a headline,
and he's already criticized enough, so that would just make it worse.
Exactly,
adding fuel to the fire. You don't need that.
So the forwards that they're bringing, there's only 3. Jeremy,
does that concern you? There's only 3 forwards.
No, that's fine because they usually only play the one at a time. So Jeremy Abobasi from Portland, Christian Ramirez, and Jossie Zardes from Columbus. 2 of the 3 have never played. Christian Ramirez and Jeremy Abobasi have never played for the national team. Jossie Zardes has 40 caps and 6 goals, so I think he'll be the one they lean on the most. But this is, again, a great opportunity for some of these guys. So you got to like...
and like you said, there's friendlies, so it's not really riding on it. It's more of just opportunity. It's an audition almost.
And for sure,
Or
Panama,
a tryout, if you will.
Panama and Costa Rica will likely bring a little bit stronger teams, so it'll be tough for the U.S. in these 2 games, especially with such a young squad and inexperienced squad. We don't know how they'll, gel together, how they'll come together as a team. That remains to be seen. But what we do know is that the U.S. women's national team played 2 games, 2 friendlies this week. They actually suffered a defeat. They lose to France 3-1. France was the better team. Are you surprised by that result, Jeff? Or
a 2-goal deficit, a 2-goal victory margin is the most surprising to me. Like usually you expect like a 1-goal margin, like then to be competitive, but it just seemed it was all France. Like just France just was the better team, like you said, and it's their first loss since I think 2016 or 20 something.
They usually don't lose, and they usually don't lose 3-1. I'll tell you.
Yeah, 3-1 is a pretty absurd number for the women's national team, and losing there, close, getting in the same year as the World Cup is going to happen, that would concern me a little bit. But maybe it uses as motivation rather than putting them down. But
World Cup is only a few months away.
They might see France in there again.
France is a favorite.
Yes, and who knows? That might be the final, U.S. versus France, and that's going to be the ultimate test. Can they bounce back from a 3-1 loss? Will that affect them when it comes down to the World Cup? But hopefully it doesn't for the U.S. women's sake. But it's going to be one of those things in where, you got to look at this and try to take any positives from it and just be motivated to be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we know they're better than this.
The U.S. wasn't playing their strongest squad. That needs to be said. They were not. They are also in the business of trying out some players as they prepare.
It's still a tough loss.
They're giving some players a chance, and I will say that this win for France was bigger for France than the loss for the U.S. The game was in France, first of all, so there was a home field aspect there. But more importantly, it was a good chance for France to kind of make a statement, like we can challenge, we can do this,
we can beat the U.S. Is that like the thought, like who's going to beat the U.S. in the World Cup, or who can beat the U.S. in the World Cup?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely it's just one of those. It's France is a very good team. They might be the biggest threat to win the World Cup, other than the U.S. women's team. Yeah. Honestly, so who knows? But USA follows it up with a 1-0 win against Spain, who's also in the World Cup. So they get a win and a loss. The World Cup's still a few months away. First match opens up in June. I believe it's June 8th is the first day. So
wait, since I know France won it in the men's last year, when was the last time has that ever happened that the same country won both the women's and the men's World Cup in the same span?
I don't think so.
That would be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something.
But I don't know if there's ever been a team that's
has competitive both women.
I don't think there's
men.
ever been a chance for this to happen other than what's going on now. Because a lot of times when a women's team is good, the men's team is trash. Like the U.S. men's team has never been close. The U.S. women win all the time. The Canadian men don't ever make the World Cup. The Canadian women are really good.
Yeah.
The Norwegian women have been really good. Oh, I will say Germany has a good women's team. So that's one squad.
But yeah, like you said, it's one of those things where one side is good and the other side is not looked at as highly or as decorated. And obviously, when you look at France and they have the men's already won the World Cup last year, and this might be unprecedented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it could be. I certainly don't know off the top of my head, but I do not believe that has happened.
I think that would be talked about already, wouldn't it have? Like, that would have been already marked, like, this might be the first time since so-and-so.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this would be more talked about.
Brazil usually has a pretty good women's team, so they're up there. But, yeah, I don't
But
I don't know.
when
So
you're-
these are the World Cup winners.
because France was also favored in the men's World Cup. That's the thing. Like, has there been both teams been favorited? Yeah, you know what I mean.
So Germany won. Germany women won in 2003 and 2007, but the men's didn't win that year.
Okay.
Japan won World Cup in 2011.
Women or men's?
This is all women.
Okay.
The United States won the last World Cup against Japan. So the U.S. beat Norway in 91. Norway beat Germany in 95. U.S. beat China in 99. That was the famous
The took off her
Brandy
shirt.
Chastain.
Yeah. That's still one of the most iconic pictures in sports.
Germany beat Sweden in 2003, and Germany beat Brazil in 2007.
So none of those. There's not the men's teams won the World Cup that same year.
No.
Because obviously we know the men's never won the World Cup. So when the U.S. women's wins the World Cup, the men have never done that. So we know that's never happened with us. But it sounds like it's never happened.
Yeah.
Period.
So anyways, we got to take a break. But once again, congratulations, Tim Howard, on a great career. I think you're the best U.S. keeper of all time, but it's debatable. Regardless, your career has been phenomenal. You've had success abroad.
You deserve
You've
the
had
rest.
success on the international stage. Thank you. It's been fun, man. He's
part of iconic U.S. men. Seems like.
yeah, he's been a great player. I mean, a stalwart of the team for a long time. So, we'll go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some new moves that have happened in the world of soccer.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. Again, check out the network if you haven't already, but let's jump into the next segment here. A couple recent signings have happened. I know that last time we were talking about Gonzalo Higuain being loaned, but it is official now, and he is actually with the team. So I don't know.
He was denying it.
I don't know if last podcast it was official, but I think it was like they were trying to finalize it. I believe that's where we were at.
He kept denying that I was actually going down too. It was like really, you're just gonna. It's obvious it's gonna happen. And now he is officially he's officially there as of right now.
Yeah,
he was flying as of today to go to the Chelsea club.
So Higuain will reconnect with his former coach Mauricio Sarri. So, he has a chance to make his mark in the English Premier League. He's a goal scorer. We all know this. He has a history of scoring goals after goals after goals. But now he'll have his hand in helping Chelsea out. Chelsea's had a couple of disappointing strikers previous to him. Alvaro Morata has been a huge failure for Chelsea. Olivier Giroud hasn't really made that much of an impression. Chelsea's been yearning for a striker to come in to help Eden Hazard. We've seen Chelsea use Eden Hazard as a false nine, as a center striker, and that's not his natural position, but they just really haven't had the production there. So they've tried using different tactics to maybe get something out of that position.
And this is like Juventus can lose him because of the fact they have Ronaldo scoring the goals. Like they don't need him as the dangerous striker as of right now. And Chelsea obviously said needs a striker. So this is almost like a win-win situation when it comes down to it.
It's a 6-month loan.
Option to buy.
Yeah, with an option to buy.
Do you think it'll buy?
I don't know. I don't know what the terms are.
But no, do you think like they'll try to get him permanently after?
Well, I mean, if he's a success, then yeah. But I don't know. So like he just played at AC Milan for the last 6 months, and he scored 8 goals in 22 matches, but he only scored once in his last 12. He's kind of been a disappointment there.
So you have your doubts?
Higuain is somebody who is a roller coaster. He
up and
he
down.
slumps
Got it.
and then he gets hot.
His hot streaks are hot, but when he's cold, he's just ice.
Yes. So he's a player that struggles with confidence, right?
That always worries me when it comes to a player that has those cold streaks, and when he's cold, he's just, you can't thaw him out, but when he's hot, you can't stop him.
He also has a reputation for coming up short in big games. Like he has a reputation for not scoring chances in World Cup games or in finals or things like that. So he is a guy.
But there has been instances where guys get that label removed from them and they become clutch.
This is true, but he is a guy that's very emotionally fragile, I would say. Like he can go, I think he can get his head out of games. I think that he can go in slumps and kind of get in his own head.
Yeah.
So
he's kind of volatile.
Here's my thing. I think it's extremely important for him to start well, right? Like, because if he goes 4, 5, 6 games without scoring a goal for Chelsea, without making an impact,
that'll get to his own head.
He could have a really tough 6 months there. You know what I mean? If he starts off scoring goals, and maybe not scoring goals, but being a part of wins, right? Like, you don't have to score all the goals, but like assists, being dangerous.
Be a benefactor in the wins.
Yes, just be a person who really boosts the club, right?
Right.
Because Chelsea needs something from that position. It's not going to take much from him.
They're barely holding on to a Champions League
Right.
in the Premier League. Yeah, they're fourth at the moment. They just lost to Arsenal. So they need to get some space from Arsenal at the moment. I think they're 3 points ahead of them, 47 to 44.
Manchester United who's right behind. Yeah, Manchester United.
I thought Arsenal was up there too.
Manchester United is right on their heels. Arsenal is closing the gap. Because Arsenal just beat Chelsea.
Yeah, 1-0. Yeah, that happened recently.
Yeah.
That was the last game they had.
They dominated Chelsea.
Was that yesterday?
Chelsea looked very poor. In fact, that game...
No, that was Sunday.
Mauricio Sarri...
Saturday.
Mauricio Sarri for Chelsea...
Oh, it was 2-0. I apologize. I thought it was 3-0.
Anyways, Mauricio Sarri was very critical of his team. He said that they were not mentally ready.
And to answer the question before, both Arsenal and Manchester United are at 44 points, and Chelsea's holding on to fourth at 47. Yeah, so it's close.
It's close, but they're definitely trending down. So
Arsenal right now has the Europa League bid over Manchester United, actually. So,
but that can change because you can get up to 7.
Well, we're going to talk about Tottenham later, but I'll ask that question about. Or should they be worried?
So going back to Higuain, it's important, I feel, that he starts off strong. Because if he doesn't, I think this move could be another poor decision, a move that doesn't help them now. But, hey, I like the move in terms of they needed to bring somebody in. And Higuain's the kind of guy that can get hot. Maybe he'll score 4 or 5 goals in 1 or 2 games in a row.
Chelsea's next game is next week against Bournemouth. I
think they play in the FA Cup this Saturday, but yes,
he was not. I was reading he wasn't going to play that though, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, he won't. He probably won't play that quick.
I'm assuming his debut will be next Wednesday.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, Mario Balotelli, the often emotional Mario Balotelli, he joins Marseille on a short-term deal. His contract was terminated by his other club, Nice, in France, so he joins Marseille. He'll immediately be put in the starting lineup. I think that's a good move for Marseille. Mario Balotelli, it wasn't long ago where he was one of the best strikers in the world. I want to talk about some not so positive news, but newly acquired Cardiff City forward Emiliano Sala still missing his plane flying over the English Channel on his way to Wales, since Cardiff is in Wales. But it appears that it went down. they have not found it yet, unfortunately.
So we don't. Yeah, it's just a scary situation.
They've used they have, I think, 2 or 3 planes currently flying around. They have a boat. They have satellite technology. They haven't been able to locate.
It's very troubling when you can't find them after multiple days. Mm-hmm. And it's really, I really hate this, but we might be assuming the worst at the moment.
Yeah, but today the biggest story is Frankie de Jong goes to Barcelona for $75 million.
He chose that over PSG.
It could go up to $87 million depending on the incentives, but he will not join until the summer. So it's another one of those big moves, but not going through until this summer. So he won't join Barcelona now, but he will join Barcelona this summer, just like how Pulisic has signed for Chelsea, but will not be with them until the summer. So that's a big move for Barcelona. Ajax he's
young too, 21 years old. I mean, he's a midfielder. He's the midfield sensation right at the moment.
Yes, he is known as maybe the prized young player from Holland at this time. Yeah. So he's got a bright future.
Mm-hmm. And he went to Barcelona, and I don't know the reasons. I don't know if he's explained it or not, but I would say a reason that he probably went there is because he knows Messi's probably not going to be there forever, and he kind of wants to play with him for the opportunity to play with him.
Yeah, I mean he'll likely
be at least.
He'll likely be a defensive midfielder or a center midfielder. So
he doesn't really score much. I actually have some stats.
No, he's not a scorer. He's a playmaker. Yeah. He's more of a number 6, which is a defensive midfielder. So
yeah, he's only scored a handful of goals in his career, so definitely on the defensive side.
Yeah, he's an attacking player, but he's a playmaker. He's not a goal scorer, so he doesn't get in the box.
He gives other people's opportunities.
Yeah, it'll be good for him. Promising young talent, and I mean, Barcelona's got
playing on Barcelona alone is an accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the English Premier League teams, break them down a little bit more. We'll talk about Tottenham, talk about Manchester United and Man City, and of course Liverpool. We'll talk about them when we return.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. We'll be talking about the English Premier League teams, breaking them down a little bit. So, big news, again, bad news for Tottenham. Second week in a row, second week of bad news. Dele Alli this time is injured in their win against Fulham. Their last second win against Fulham, mind you. They were very close to tying that game until they got a goal late. Harry Winks gets the goal, but Dele Alli has injured his hamstring. He will be out until March. He will be joining his running mate, Harry Kane.
Just from bad to worse, isn't it?
Yep, him and Harry Kane will now miss the next 5-6 weeks.
So I wanted to ask you, they have 51 points right now in third. Do you see them dropping out of the top 4?
I think that they will definitely drop out of the top 4.
Yeah, it's a bummer right now because they're I guess they're not playing in Champions League next year.
It'll be tough for them to hold on. The crazy thing about their season is that they don't have a tie all season, which I find incredible. They have
by this point in the season, yes, that is surprising.
Yeah, the average is like 5 or 6 a team.
Yeah.
But they barely beat Fulham. They didn't look that strong against Fulham. And Fulham's a relegation club. Like, they're probably going down.
We were talking about this the other day. Like, how are they going to do against a team without Kane? Like, this is a true test. And they didn't look like they were up for it.
So the pressure is certainly on Tottenham. I don't know if they're looking to make a move. Of course, we don't expect them to based on their history. Their roster is not built. If they don't make a move for a striker here in the next week, there's 1 week until the transfer window's over. I don't see them staying.
Isn't
in the
the
top
last
4.
day of the transfers usually when everything just goes down? Like everyone's just rushing around?
Sometimes. I mean, it'll pick up this week for sure.
Okay.
But Fernando Llorente is their backup striker. He got his first start. He was not impressive. In fact, he was unfortunate. He had an own goal, which
As a striker?
Which was unfortunate for him because he finally gets to play. Everybody's already
It's
questioning.
not the best start. And that doesn't put anyone's mind at ease if you're a Tottenham fan, for sure.
Yeah, everybody's questioning like if he'll score, and he does, but against his own team. So
I mean, it's still a goal, right?
that's what he'll say.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I scored. It was an own goal. No one's going to remember that part, right? Right.
So, moving on, Manchester United, another win.
They are rolling like a downhill avalanche right now.
So, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has not lost. He is not tied as manager of Manchester United. Only wins. He's been there. I believe this is now 6 in a row.
Can you start better than that?
Nope.
Probably not.
Pogba scored. Marcus Rashford scored. Brighton got a goal back late, but it wasn't enough. Manchester United, man, they are just playing some really good soccer right now. They're looking strong. I don't know. When I look ahead, I believe they play Burnley in their next match. That's another very winnable game for them.
They've had a pretty light schedule as of late, huh? Would you say?
Well, they just beat Tottenham.
Yeah, but they're kind of on a. Was that with Harry Kane? Correct? That was the injury.
Yeah, he got hurt at the very end though. He played the whole game.
That's what I meant.
He got hurt on the last play.
And I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying their schedule can look a little better going forward.
Yeah, I mean they haven't played the toughest teams. They've beat Cardiff, they beat Huddersfield, they beat Bournemouth.
With the momentum, they can beat. I can see them beat Liverpool, but maybe not right now.
Mm-hmm. They actually play Arsenal in their next match.
That's a big game.
Yeah, that's the FA Cup round 4. So they play Arsenal this weekend. That's going to be a fun game. And then they play Burnley in the league, their next league game. Then they're off to Leicester and Fulham. So they'd play those games before they play their Champions League match against PSG. They have a chance to really rifle off some wins. They can get past Arsenal. They can draw this out maybe to 10. So who knows? But obviously things are looking great for their future, for their rest of the season. For them, they're approaching the top 4, like you mentioned. So this is big.
Yeah, they're tied with, like I said before, they're tied with Arsenal right now at 44.
Mm-hmm. Manchester City, they continue their winning ways.
Yeah. They've been playing amazing lately, and it's showing. Like, if Liverpool wasn't also
winning,
winning,
their last 4 games are, 7-0, 9-0, 3-0, 3-0.
Pretty convincing, isn't it?
Yeah, they beat a couple lower division teams, 7 and then 9-0.
It's kind of mean, isn't it?
Some would say
9 on 4 would be enough.
They play the second leg of their cup match against Burton Albion today, and they are up 9 goals on the aggregate.
And there's only 1 game. It's not like 2.
I'm sure we're going to see a
10-0 win for.
But I'm sure we're going to see a very weak Manchester City squad being put out there today. They'll save their players.
I would say, okay, if I know this is basically impossible, but can you imagine if they lost this 10-0 and that would be the biggest collapse ever, right? That would be up there.
Yeah,
but it's not happening.
They're playing a 3rd division team.
Yeah, it's not happening. I'm sorry, it's not. Unless Messi is in disguise, and Ronaldo's in disguise on that team.
Even still, it probably wouldn't.
Yeah, it would probably be tough, huh?
Yeah. So City stays hot. They win another game 3-0, but they haven't made progress because Liverpool continues to win.
Yeah, they had a pretty good game against
Crystal
Palace 4-3.
It was 4-3. They actually went down in that game.
Crystal Palace was playing extremely well. There was a beautiful header, just a textbook, just right off from the corner kick that I thought was just lovely, just perfect. And there was kind of lack of defense, honestly, on both sides of the ball. That kind of worried me a little bit. I was like,
4-3 kind of speaks for itself.
yeah,
I
right.
agree.
But like, it was just like. Is that troubling for Liverpool that they were kind of lacking defense, or do you think they were just underestimating Crystal Palace?
I don't think that it's troubling for them because they've been great defensively all season long, and the third goal they gave up was in the 95th minute. Like
True.
It was at the end. The first goal that they gave up, I will say, I thought that was a little bit lackadaisical defending. So
right.
I will definitely say that was
Underestimating the opponent.
They could have probably done a little bit better there, but I mean, Crystal Palace, they have some talented players. Townsend, Zaha, like those players on a day can do well. So
yeah.
I'm not concerned about their defense because of how well they've played so far. I'm not going to overreact
I was
on
just
one
watching,
game.
Yeah, I was just watching a couple of goals, and I was like, interesting. But also, there was also very lack of defense on the Crystal Palace side too. So it wasn't just one way; it was both ways. Obviously, 4-3 really speaks for itself when 7 goals in total happen. But granted,
Right.
Yeah.
So, Liverpool continues to just stay at the top of the league. I still think
it doesn't really look like much can stop them, can it?
I still think it's theirs to win. I know that the gap is only 4, and I know that February, a lot can change in February. February is going to get tough for all these teams because they're going to be playing in Europe. They're going to be playing their Champions League games in addition to their club games, their domestic league games. So anything can happen. But Liverpool's next match in the league is against Leicester City. Speaking of Leicester City, they played in basically the game of the week. I don't think anybody can argue with that. It actually was NBC's game of the week. Wolves beat Leicester City 4-3, putting a lot of pressure on Claude Puel, the coach of Leicester. There were rumors that his job was already on the line going into the Wolves game. They go down 2 goals early. They come back right after halftime, though. 2 quick responses, back-to-back, 5 minutes apart. The first one coming in the 46th, the next one coming in the 51st. Right away, they're back in, tie game. But then Wolves go up again 3-2, only to see them lose the lead in the 86th minute. Wes Morgan with the goal. But Diogo Jota, in injury time, gives Wolves a 4-3 lead and the win in just a back-and-forth game.
Added a hat trick as well.
First hat trick for Diogo Jota. He becomes...
I love their coach just runs on the field, too, and gets kicked out afterwards. I thought that was pretty funny.
He ran on the field and got in the dog pile. But interesting fact, Diogo Jota becomes only the second Portuguese player ever to score a hat trick in the English Premier League. Who is the other one?
Portugal? Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Yeah, I was
like, they both were 22 years old when they did it. So
Jota's
got a bright future.
Is he the next Ronaldo?
I wouldn't go that far, but
I was kidding.
He led the championship in goals last year, so he led England.
Oh, he has potential. I'm not saying no, but I'm comparing him to one of the greatest scorers of all time is unfair.
Mm-hmm. He is kind of a young starlet, though, that's being looked at as being maybe the next wave of players for that country. So we'll see what his career does later on. But Liverpool,
do you see him staying on the Wolves in the future? Or do you
Wolves
think
Wolves have a lot of good young players. They will be approached by a lot of bigger clubs, but they have money too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that, but they have money. They can keep these players. They can buy big players too. So
I was just curious what you thought. Do you think another big Premier League team will come calling in the summer?
Diogo Jota and Ruben Neves teams will come calling. Some people are saying that Neves will be bought for like $120 million. Frankie de Jong got bought for 75 today.
Yeah.
Think about that. So that's what people think of Ruben Neves. Anyways, Liverpool's playing Leicester in their next league match. Claude Puel, we have to talk about him. Leicester in their last 5, they've lost 4.
Yeah, it's pretty
Leicester
rough.
in the table is 9th, but they're going down. If you look at the table right now, between 7 and 12, it looks like the NBA's Western Conference. It really does. 33 points for the 7th place team, 30 points for the 12th place team. Literally a 3-point gap between 5 spots.
That does sound like the NBA's Western Conference.
Anything can happen. It can get all flipped upside down like here in the next week or two.
So every game is crucial.
Every game is crucial, especially if you're looking to stay if you're trying to get the 7th spot. The 7th spot's kind of important because you can make Europe with the 7th spot. It depends on other things.
But hey, you get an opportunity to, or a chance, I guess.
Yes.
Opportunities, yeah.
More than likely, you'll get one of the Europe spots if you get 7th.
Yeah.
The only way
you don't want to be. I know it's like they won't be relegated or anything, but you don't want to be you don't want to be in the bottom of all that.
Speaking of the bottom, well, before we go there, so Leicester. This is the thing about Leicester.
Mm-hmm.
The heat is on him. Claude Puel, the coach. Their next match, Liverpool. They're not winning that game.
Ouch.
Their next match after that, Manchester United.
Ouch.
Their next match after that, Tottenham Hotspur.
They can't catch. Well, they might have caught a break in the injury.
Still a tough
department.
game, though.
Granted, I'm just saying they might have had to.
Then they play Crystal Palace. Then they play Brighton. They don't have any easy games coming up.
Especially after Crystal Palace's performance against Liverpool, like this is not easy. That is just going walking through coals. That's not very fair.
It's
not fair. Maybe fair is not. I'm just saying that's just a tough break.
It's extremely tough time for Leicester.
And after the tough loss against the Wolves and you said injury time, like it's only bad to worse.
Yeah, I don't see them.
Do you see the coach lasting that long to that game?
No.
When you think he's gone? After United?
I think he'll get. Yeah, I think he'll get to the United game, but if he loses that one and he loses,
So he needs to beat either Liverpool or United. You're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think even if he wins one of those games, does he keep his job?
If he what?
If he beats Liverpool or Manchester United, does he keep his job?
Yeah, probably. Probably keeps his job for a little bit longer.
All right, guys, I need you to win this game. All right, because we want to be up with the rankings. No, I just want to have a job.
Yeah. But speaking of which, I think the biggest result of this last week was Cardiff-Newcastle. Newcastle beats Cardiff, and they jump them in the standings, and Cardiff now moves into the relegation
We
zone.
talked about that last week, how like this was like you lose, you're in a serious hole.
Yeah, Newcastle gets a win, a pretty easy win, for being honest. But
well, they've just been playing so underwhelmingly this whole season, so I wouldn't have been surprised if Cardiff beat them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Newcastle could be right back in relegation zone after next week. Like,
but it's safe to have that win and not being in as of right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So
at least be in contention not to be relegated. Because if they lost, who knows? They might not.
Huddersfield's still at 11 points. They
just lost 3-0 to Manchester City, right? If I remember correctly. Which we talked about, like, oh, they were going to get destroyed, and 3-0, pretty bad.
They play Everton.
Could be worse. Could be 9-0.
Huddersfield plays Everton, Chelsea, and Arsenal the next 3. That's so unfortunate for them.
Yeah, they're just going to be at the bottom for good, aren't they?
Yeah,
I don't think there's
so.
any question.
I don't think they're going to get more than 25 points, which would be really low.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, shifting gears to the United States, MLS. So we've seen a couple of expansion teams get named. Austin is the latest addition. Austin will be the 27th franchise in the MLS. But the battle for 28 is big because some people think that at 28, the league will cap, that there won't be any more, although I disagree with that. But it is important.
What do you think the cap is if not 28?
I have no idea.
32? Like
Maybe.
NFL style?
Yeah, maybe. But regardless, one club that's been vying for a chance at MLS, who's been overlooked 3 times now, Sacramento Republic FC. They have now landed lead investor Ron Burkle. He will buy the team, and he bought land to build a stadium. This is big news because Ron Burkle is the owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
And they're pretty successful.
he is a big-time investor. He was an early investor in Uber. He
knows.
Amongst of other tech, he tried to buy the Sacramento Kings twice before and got shot down by the Maloofs.
I believe because he wanted to move them down to Orange County.
He wanted to keep them in Sacramento the first time, and then the second time he wanted to move them.
Yeah.
But regardless, he has bought the Republic, really strengthening their position as possibly getting the last spot.
Buying land was the biggest thing there, hands down. And like you said, like he's an early investor in Uber. Like he's a very intelligent guy. He knows business, the right business decisions. And if he thinks that Sacramento Republic can be a serious contender for an MLS spot, and they're they have the most attendance in their league at the moment, why not take that opportunity?
Right now, I think there's 4 teams vying for one spot, and I think Sacramento has the best bid so far. But St. Louis is definitely a possibility.
St. Louis might get it because they lost the Rams.
San Diego and Phoenix are the other 2, but I believe it'll be Sacramento or St. Louis that have the best shots. Maybe Detroit is also a team that could be in there, a city that could be in there. But other than that, this is our show, man. We're done.
All right.
We'll
Thank
see you guys
so much
next
for joining
week.
us. Yes. Hopefully we'll have more news on just anything.
Should be more transfer news a week.
Yes. Well, I mean,
today.
we're in that'll be the final week, right? Next week. So yeah, we'll definitely hear some transfer news. Hopefully. And as always, I'm Jeff Malinoff. That's Mark Souza, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.